Shalom, friends. This is Daniel again with Blessed Israel Network, and this is another episode of Eye on Israel. Now, as some of you may know, we are in the midst of the fall feasts, and we have actually just completed what many people call the 10 days of awe. In other words, between what some call Yom Truah or Rosh Hashanah or the Jewish New Year, and the Day of Atonement, otherwise known as Yom Kippur, which just concluded yesterday with a 27-hour fast for those who observe. My wife and I both fasted, and we broke fast with some believing friends about 20 minutes away from where we live, and it was a wonderful time. But the reason that I wanted to share this message with you is to give you just a little tiny taste, especially for those of you who have never been to Israel, what it's like to be in Israel during this time, and just a little bit of general flavor about being in Israel. Let me give you a couple of examples. My wife and I spent our entire lives in the United States, and we made Aliyah to Israel in 2011. Excuse me. And of course, you know, growing up and spending all of our lives in the United States, we're very accustomed and used to things being readily available, convenient, lots of space, open all the time, etc., etc. What do I mean by that? Well, folks in the U.S. are used to going to big supermarkets that are in some cases open 7 days a week, sometimes 24 hours. Even some pharmacies are open 24 hours. To give you an example, in Israel, there isn't a single supermarket in the entire country that is open 7 days a week, that's open 24 hours. 99% of the supermarkets, even the big chains in Israel, open at around maybe 7 or 8 in the morning and close around 9, maybe 10 o'clock at night. None of them are open 24 hours a day. And virtually 99% of them are closed on Shabbat. Now, Shabbat, of course, is Sabbath, but Shabbat here in Israel is the seventh day. It's Saturday, which is observed by Jews worldwide and has been since the days of the Ten Commandments, since the Torah was given to Moses on Mount Sinai. And the whole week is based around the timing of Shabbat. So in other words, in the U.S., the so-called work week, if you will, begins on Monday and typically ends on Friday, and then there's a 2-day or 2-night weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and then the work week begins again on Monday. And most businesses, other than manufacturing companies and industrial companies and what have you, most businesses remain open, not only in the evenings, but on the weekends. You can go to movie theaters on Saturday or Sunday. You can go to the grocery store on Saturday or Sunday at 2 in the morning if you want. You can go shopping because the shopping malls are open, etc., etc. Here in Israel, on Shabbat, Erev Shabbat, which is Friday, around 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, virtually everything shuts down. Public transportation, 99% of all the public transportation, the buses and the trains, shut down. All the regular commercial businesses shut down. The retail stores shut down. The movie theaters shut down. The shopping malls shut down. Virtually everything, except for a very, very few pharmacies, and with the exception of a very small number of grocery stores, everything shuts down at about 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock on Friday and does not start up again or open again until Sunday. So everyone is building their week around the Shabbat. And on Thursday afternoon and Friday morning up until closing time, Friday afternoon, the stores, especially the grocery markets, are just insanely busy because everyone is gearing up for Shabbat. It's just the way it is here in Israel. And so when it comes to the fall feasts, especially the 10 days of awe, this is a very, very special time in Israel. And the holiest day of the year, and I don't want to say the equivalent of, but I guess the closest example to the holiest day of the year in the U.S. and maybe most other Western nations is Christmas Day, which a lot of people believe that's the day that Jesus Christ was born. We call him Yeshua, and we believe that there's lots of evidence which indicate that his birth date was other than on December 25th, which the Romans basically decided. But we're not talking about that today. My point here is that the holiest day of the year here in Israel is Yom Kippur, which we just finished. And to say things shut down on a comparative scale versus the United States is not a fair comparison. Because in the U.S., even on Christmas, which is considered the holiest day of the year, many, many stores are open, many shopping centers are open, public transportation is running, movie theaters are definitely open, and a large number of supermarkets are open because they know that there's going to be tons of business because people are going to be preparing for a holiday meal. Well, here in Israel, that's not the case. And this year, Yom Kippur happened to coincide with Shabbat. It began at sundown on Friday and went until sundown on Saturday. And when that happens, which is rare, Yom Kippur actually trumps Shabbat, if you will. So we're not lighting candles, not doing the typical motzi and kiddush, the blessings over the wine and the bread on Erev Shabbat when it coincides with Yom Kippur. But I wanted to give you a couple of tangible examples of how life, in fact, does change here in Israel, other than me just sharing with you. And one of the ways it changes is television. Television in the U.S. is available 24/7, every day of the year. And not just in the U.S., but in most other countries. You can turn on the TV, 100 channels, 200 channels, whatever it is, and it's available 24/7. Here in Israel, on Yom Kippur, things shut down, including the cable TVs. So take a look at this, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So there you see a snapshot of the grid, if you will, or the menu that is showing what's available on Yom Kippur. Nothing. Now, typically that would be in Hebrew, but I have the option here in Israel of setting my menu up in English, so that's why you can read it in English. But as you can see, no broadcasts. It's Yom Kippur. Imagine if something like that happened on Christmas Day or Easter in the U.S. No TV. Wow. I think there'd be lawsuits all over the place. Well, this is Israel, my friends, and this is the way it is in Israel. Now, another example is people don't drive their cars for the most part on Shabbat. Typically, most people will refrain from driving their cars on Shabbat. Quite a few people do, okay? So let's not think that there's no traffic on the roads on Shabbat. There is. But on Yom Kippur, oy vavoy, this is a day where you definitely are not seeing cars on the road. And I'm going to show you a couple of clips right now which basically confirm exactly what I'm talking about. So here's the first clip, which is a nearby intersection, not far from where we live. It's a major intersection, and this clip is going to show you what it looks like on a typical day. So there you get an idea of what a typical day looks like at this particular intersection. Not far from this intersection, there's one that's even busier. And so take a look at what this intersection looks like on a typical day. So there you have an idea. And, I don't mean to bore you because it's not really exciting looking at, cars just driving along doing what they normally do. I know it's not exciting, but I did it specifically to make a point. And each of those clips were about 1 minute long, just to give you an idea in terms of time frame and what have you, some perspective. So now I'm going to show you the same two intersections on Yom Kippur. Take a look at clip number 1. So that was the first intersection on Yom Kippur. And now the second intersection, which I showed earlier on a typical day, here's that intersection on Yom Kippur. Take a look. Well, I think you would agree there's quite a contrast between a regular day and Yom Kippur. I mean, not a single vehicle. And it's really kind of amazing. My wife and I would get up in the morning on Yom Kippur, and I'm telling you, we go out on our balcony, and the silence is so beautiful. It's so refreshing. It's like a quiet time like we've never had before any other day of the year. It's really amazing because this country, for those of you who have been here, it's a pretty noisy place. not only is there a lot of cars and vehicles on the road, but they honk their horns. Oi, I'm telling you, they honk their horns. It's just unbelievable. So on this one magical, wonderful, godly, glorious day of Yom Kippur, it is silent, and I mean silent. Oh, is it refreshing. Maybe someday you'll be able to be in Israel during this day, and it will affect you, and you will love it just as much as we do. It's really, really amazing. So I wanted to share both of those pre and post, if you will, or normal versus holy, if you will, clips to give you an idea of what a radical change we experience here in Israel. So, as I said, we have just closed the 10 days of awe, and if you are observing them, I pray that you've been inscribed for another season in the book of life, which is different than salvation, so it's a little confusing for those of you who don't understand it, and maybe someday there'll be an opportunity to speak about that. But I just pray that this year, on the biblical year, which is 5,778, that it'll be a blessing for you, and that God's glory will just shine upon you, and you'll be able to walk in your destiny and do exactly as God calls you to do. We are here in Israel doing exactly what we believe God has called us to do, and so I wanted to share a couple of precious moments with you about what this particular season is like in the Holy Land. So God bless you for now, and if this has blessed you, this little message, please feel free to get in touch with us. Our website is blessisraelnetwork.com. There you can send us an email, comment on anything that we're doing, including this message. If you'd like, you can even make a donation to our ministry. God bless you for now. And as they say in Israel, Lashana Tova, which is have a wonderful, 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 wonderful New Year. Laitrot, which is bye-bye for now.